Item number 10, conduct of business. Item A, adopt a resolution approving strategies addressing to 2009-10 general fund budget deficit. Staff, please.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I will briefly summarize the action item that's in front of you tonight and have the Administrative Services Director available to answer any questions or to elaborate. This item follows on a study session that occurred on February 10th and an additional discussion that occurred this evening just prior to this regular City Council meeting. The action at hand is to address an immediate, to provide an immediate response to the anticipated $1.3 million revenue shortfall that will affect the current year, fiscal 9-10's general fund operating budget. As we discussed previously with the City Council in late January when we presented the mid-year financial update as of December 31st and at the two subsequent study sessions, the city is projecting the shortfall in the magnitude of $1.3 million primarily as a result of lower than anticipated already reduced revenue projections, primarily in the major revenue categories of sales tax, property tax, and development service fees. Consistent with the City Council's continuing direction and policy, this action is intended to provide, as I said, an immediate response, and one which recognizes that it is our obligation to maintain balance between revenues and expenditures. The action before you tonight relies on what is a primary use of one-time revenues in order to balance the immediate shortfall. In total, and I will briefly summarize the actions, approximately $150,000 will be reduced out of line items in the general fund budget. There are additional revenues that were unbudgeted, but which we now are able to project in the amount of $175,000, coming primarily from increases in our recreation program revenues in the amount of $100,000. In total, the 175 plus the 150 represents the approximately $325,000 of changes, expenditure reductions and revenue increases. The remainder of the $1.3 million strategy comes, as I mentioned earlier, from one-time resources. Those are as follows. $300,000 use of development impact fees, $250,000 repayment of a portion of the existing redevelopment agency loan from the general fund equipment reserve, repayment of the portion of the redevelopment loan which came originally directly from the general fund in the amount of $200,700. And lastly, a use of $298,800 directly out of the general fund reserve. In total, those amounts come to $1.3 million and would be able to be implemented immediately to address the current year shortfall. In addition to these strategies, as staff has previously outlined to the City Council, we are anticipating a continuing deficit and revenue shortfall into fiscal year 10-11. Although we have not yet completed substantial work on development of the fiscal year 10-11 operating budget, we are currently anticipating a deficit in roughly the same amount of $1.3 to $1.5 million. and are currently recommending the City Council's direction that we move immediately to further evaluation of structural changes to the city organization and reduction of the number of general fund positions that would be in place and effective for the entire year of fiscal 10-11. We are also recommending that the City Council provide direction for a substantial work effort over the next year to identify and evaluate strategies for new revenues. And as previously reported to the City Council, we would not expect any substantial new revenue mechanism that might be considered by the City Council being effective until the following fiscal year 11-12, but believe as part of a longer-term strategy for what is a continuing serious revenue shortfall situation, that these variety of strategies be implemented, and are asking your approval tonight, your preliminary approval for the strategy moving forward, and your immediate approval for the strategy to address the current year $1.3 million revenue shortfall.
Any council discussion? We've had two rather lengthy, exhaustive, and thorough study sessions on this item. What's your pleasure?
Through the chair.
Yes.
I heard the word thorough. So, I appreciate staff. We had a study session prior to this. I took the opportunity to meet with the manager and the administrative services director over a couple hours today, this afternoon, and I appreciate the data and the information that we have. It was somewhat enlightening, but as well as appreciative that the $200,000 for the repayment of the redevelopment loan was, as explained, did not come out of the reserves. So in essence, that's to me a positive. It also was good for me to see that we've gone from a 3.2 in general reserves to a 6.0. I think it's progress, and I think it's positive. I think and believe that in the resolution, or at least if an understanding by the majority of the council, I'd like to see that we start to establish and stipulate some type of a guidelines on use of reserves, whether they be general and or the equipment, whether in the equipment reserve, because maybe staff feels we have been managing it well. We've been having elongating the equipment. Does it go into capital improvement, as discussed earlier? I also feel that I would like to see a timeline. Was mentioned about a 30 days preliminary coming back to the council as far as a timeline, and preliminary as far as the restructuring or the vacancies or the potential retirements, etc., from the staffing of the general fund employees. We talked about 60 days. It's coming back as far as some beginning of the implementation. I'd like to see those timelines. I'd also like to see maybe in the second meeting in April, maybe that comes about, the progress of the current budget for 210-211. I'd like to see how we think the deficit is working. Maybe we'll have some more idea what the state's going to do to us, hopefully not worse than what they already have. I think these are some critical things that we need, I would like and recommend that we have placed within either the resolution or an understanding by action, so that we keep on a timeline and we address this issue going straight forward and try to resolve the current budget currently, and then obviously already embarking upon 2010-2011.
Anyone else? Irene? Michael?
Go ahead.
Irene?
Oh. I understand, and I agree with you about wanting to see a timeline. I think we need to get that going. I don't know if we want to put anything about using reserves or not, or how to use reserves in this particular.
No, I don't.
Okay. I thought that's what
coming up with a guideline of down the road.
Okay, that would be great to put it in with the timeline itself, so we can kind of figure out for the future budget. Okay. So I agree with those things. I do want to commend both the city manager and I can never remember what your new title is. Mr. O'Leary. It's easier. for all your hard work with this. It's not easy to sit there and try to figure out what's the best thing to do for the city, and it's not easy to push the numbers around and then realize that they're going to be people's jobs and lives affected. So I admire how you've done it, and I appreciate it. So
if there's nothing else, I want to, Councilwoman is correct on thanking the staff. And it is a challenging time for everybody and what they're dealing with. And even at my place, I've had to deal with the uncomfortable situation of looking at things like this. And it's not hard. I mean, it's not easy. It's hard looking at folks and trying to analyze and determine what to do. And I also appreciate staff because, unfortunately, unlike the private sector, it becomes very public. And it makes it uneasy. And it makes it challenging to try to do what you're supposed to do day to day, knowing that this lingers over the heads of folks in the general fund. So I appreciate the work and the service that they continue to do, and I think we all need to be sensitive as we move forward in trying to remedy our budget shortfall. With that, if there's nothing else, I'll go ahead.
Just one comment. I also wanted to pass along my thanks. I know you guys have been working really hard on this, and I do appreciate all the work you've put into it. One thing that's been sort of enlightening to me is that there are even now some things that we aren't budgeting for in terms of ongoing maintenance of some facilities. And so I would like to see going forward just a better understanding of all our possible future liabilities so that we have just a really solid understanding of what our reserve should look like, and just really, the health of that fund. Because right now I think we're going by some percentage guideline, which it seems like we're in a good position, but yet we are missing a few items. So just for my own comfort level, I'd like to see a little, as much as possible, a better understanding of how that fund could be consumed by various emergencies.
Action?
I'll introduce the resolution if the rest of my colleagues are comfortable with the coming back in April with some progress on the budget second meeting with a 30-day preliminary 60-day implementation with some of those stipulations in there and eventual guidelines down the road of that.
Clarification, just a suggestion. Why don't we just take action on the resolution, and then we'll take a separate little action or direction to the to staff for the reserve policy and some time limits and stuff. I think I don't want to mix the two up, so.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
So to begin the process, I'll go ahead and introduce the resolution for adoption.
Vice Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Councilmember Salazar.
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell.
Aye.
Mayor Ruane.
Aye. It sounds like the City Council would like to instruct staff to bring back a written policy, preliminary at the very beginning, of a reserve policy and how we're going to address reserves in the future. What's the best way to do that? And also a timeline for some of your future intended actions to take place for the budget that's going to occur in 2010, 2011. Okay?
Through
can do that.
Summarizes it in the April, just so we get a preliminary, like you said, of that, in addition to the budget situation.
All right?
Yes.
Irene?
I just want to know, I'm not going to be here April 23rd. Or I'm going to Europe to visit my daughter.
Well,
So
good for you.
I know.
Think of all the stuff we could get done.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Wow.
So,
No,
that's okay. I'll leave notes.
That's great. No, we should have something before that.
Okay.